Sometimes Rams fans just don't get it. I'm Joe Terozine, and live from the Ram Cave, this is RamView, the December 27th, 2022 edition, brought to you by Temple City Auto Repair. If you're having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. I can personally vouch for those guys. Hey, it is good to be back. I haven't done one for about 15 days. One, I was overwhelmed by the Baker Mayfield performance. But the other thing, performances, but the other thing that kind of laid me down was I was having some voice issues, a little bit gravelly was my voice, and I had to kind of save it for my day job. And so I backed off a little bit. But if you heard me last Sunday on my church broadcast, my voice was kind of thrashed. And so I had to hold back a little bit. But we are here now, and it is so good to be talking Ram football again. And I'm just going to rattle off some things here because a lot of folks don't really want to talk Ram football right now because it's over. The season's over in one sense. There's some games to be played, but it's over. And so, but what we're going to do is we're going to talk some Ram football and just pick out different points. The Mayfield thing has been a revelation. It's been awesome, but there's been other things taking place that we can get into. All right, number one, hey, the Rams looked great on Sunday, right? But then again, the 76 Buccaneers would have looked great against the Denver Broncos on Sunday. I mean, honestly, watching the Broncos play, this is where the Rams fans, one of the things the Rams fans don't get, has everyone's been screaming for McVay's head and Snead's head. Easier just to say Mick Snead. You haven't really looked at the Broncos and all the picks they traded for Russell Wilson, the contract they gave Russell Wilson, and the coach that they hired to coach Russell Wilson, Nathaniel Hackett. Well, first, he's a Hackett. I mean, you should know something about that. The Hackett's, Dad Paul, they're good football people, but they're not HCs. They're just not HCs. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And so Ram fans don't get what you're seeing with the Rams. You're seeing a team that is still competing, that is still playing hard, as opposed to the Broncos who rolled over and died. I mean, after a while, I've been on teams that have rolled over and died when I was playing basketball. And sometimes when I'm in those situations, I know this sounds really bad given my current career, is that I couldn't stand it. So sometimes I'd want to start a fight. I know I'm more mature now. The hair turned color. But at a certain point, you don't like getting your butt kicked, you do something about it. But at a certain point on Sunday, the Denver Broncos were perfectly good with getting their butt kicked. And they just didn't have any fight in them. Oh, they had fight for each other, against each other, but they didn't have any fight for the Rams. So I say all that is that the 76 Buccaneers could have beaten the Broncos on Sunday. But it's great the Rams won, but don't get too ahead of yourselves. It's also, when you talk about Rams fans not getting it, it's amazing what you see on social media. Oh, man, Baker Mayfield – Baker Mayfield should be the starter and Matthew Stafford should retire right now. Baker Mayfield, he's the guy. It's obvious that Baker Mayfield's the guy. Again, it's amazing what you see. But no, Rams fans, I'll say this, and for those that have watched me and listened to me this past year, Baker Mayfield is not your future franchise quarterback, right? I said it on Sunday. I said it on the last show I did. I'm all for keeping Baker Mayfield. I've written it on social media. I'm all for keeping Baker Mayfield because he and McVay get each other. I don't know if Mayfield's had a coach in the NFL. I don't think he has that understands him, and he's benefiting from being around Sean McVay. He really is. And again, shows you, McVay didn't write off the season. He kept working, kept coaching. Heck of a coach. You don't want to get rid of Sean McVay. And Baker Mayfield is a good NFL quarterback. But the best thing for Baker Mayfield, I will repeat again, is for him to sit for a year or two until Matthew Stafford finishes his run. And it's not like with Matthew Stafford and the condition of his frame after all those years in Detroit and all those years combined in Detroit, the way he got banged around this year. It's not like Mayfield's not going to have opportunities to play, but it gives him an opportunity to grow in the system. It gives him an opportunity to be the bridge quarterback for a couple years until the Rams find their next best opportunity that comes along, right? Maybe that's Drake May. It's not going to be Caleb Williams, guys, unless you go 0-17 next year. All right. So yeah, I hope Mayfield gets it. Remember, no team wanted him. The Rams were the only teams that put a bid in on him when he was a free agent. And I think the reason you've seen success for Baker Mayfield is because him and Sean McVay work well together. But Baker Mayfield, talent-wise, is not Matthew Stafford when Matthew Stafford can be kept upright by his offensive line. The good news here, I think, that the promising thing is Mayfield not only got his first contract with the Browns that he's working off of now, but he's also already had tons of national ads, right? So he's got his bag, so to speak. He's got his dough. Now, if he's mature, he needs to get patience and park it behind Stafford until Stafford is done. And I think that would benefit him, and I think that would benefit the Rams. My only request that if Mayfield stays is that both Wolford and Perkins are given the heave-ho. I like Perkins. I do. He's taken up a roster spot for 2 years. I took a lot of heat when I was complaining about this earlier. But guy takes up a roster spot for 2 years. You got to find out if the guy can play. Well, I think they let him start one game in Arrowhead, and they decided Bryce Perkins can't play. So you got to cut him. He's got to go. Let's get that extra roster spot back for the franchise and let him go if Mayfield decides to stay, because that's a quality, high-end backup. I like Kobe Durant. Yeah, he had his pick 6. I like Darian Kendrick, who has had a couple of bad moments, but a couple of really good moments this year. Durant looks like he's a little further along. I like Russ Yeast. I like the aggressiveness in Russ Yeast. Everyone likes Kyren Williams, right? He provides a nice change of pace. And so when you look at Kobe Durant, Darian Kendrick, Russ Yeast, and we haven't seen Logan Bruss yet, the 2022 draft wasn't the bust that fans were saying it is, right? So Ram fans, again, get ahead of themselves. If you're really depressed, look at Denver, okay? Look at Denver. If you're really depressed, look at Indy, okay? Look at Indy. They got a team that's got talent around them, but ever since Andrew Luck retired, they've brought in Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, and now Matt Ryan. And it's like they're just bringing in, as my friend Rich Whittington, number one Colt fan, said, they're bringing in one geriatric quarterback after another. And you got to wonder, if you're a fan in Indy, do you really want them to bring in Derek Carr? If Derek Carr gets on the market, it's just, you could be those teams, but you're not. You're the Rams, and you're a Rams fan. And so be grateful for what you have. Get what you have. You've been blessed. This isn't the Jeff Fisher era, right? Again, as I said, remember who they played on Sunday. That team rolled over and died on their coach, and then the administration put Nathaniel Hackett out to pasture. And regarding the individual performances, I'm happy for Tyler Higbee. I am. I'm really happy for Tyler Higbee. What a great, productive tight end he's been since 2016, right out of Western Kentucky, right? Mid-round pick. He's been productive, been a really good blocker. I hope for the rest of this year, it's like the end of 2019 was. I hope he just loads up on receptions and yards and touchdowns, and then packs his locker and plays somewhere else next season, right? I mean, we've seen the Tyler Higbee show. He's getting older. He's more vulnerable. He has the occasional drop. It would be nice to see him maybe ride off someplace else and spend a couple more years in the league, get 10 years in, have a nice big fat pension. But I'm ready to move on from Tyler Higbee. I'd like to see Bryson Hopkins get more playing time, and he's picked up his blocking as well. And so it'd be fun to see Bryson Hopkins get more playing time, and the Rams to draft a tight end, right? On the other end, you got tight ends, you got wide receivers, right? Cooper Kupp's out, Allen Robinson's out, Ben Skoranic's out. That's all gone. And they've all had moments. And I know we're going to see better things out of Allen Robinson in the future and such. And we've seen a lot of growth out of Ben Skoranek. Everyone likes Lance McCutcheon. But have you seen Tutu Atwell these last few weeks? He's not a perfect receiver yet. He's still essentially kind of a rookie. But you know one thing I've noticed about Tutu Atwell? He has hands, right? Manos de pegamento, right? He has hands of glue. He can catch the ball. He can catch the ball. And with his speed, you get the reason why the Rams really liked him. And so I think the back half of this season, this collapse, has at least given us a glimpse that Tutu Atwell can play. Let's just find a way to get him the ball more. And let's be creative about him, and let's be creative about Brandon Powell. Moving to the offensive line, it's funny how the offensive line the last few weeks has been largely intact, and it's been somewhat solid. You know, not spectacular, but somewhat solid. And it kind of shows you what an offensive line that is not just having one injury, but multiple injuries, right? If an offensive line can at least be together, even a bad offensive line can be productive, right? You didn't even know who these guys were. Ty Neske, Ode Abuche, Matt Skura. Who were these guys when the season started? They were as unemployed, you know, as anybody else out there in the unemployment line, right? And yet we've seen solid to average production out of them that if we had them in place on a regular basis during the season, maybe Matthew Stafford isn't as badly bruised and banged up as he is. We got Rob Havenstein. He's not had a great year. Like he said, he was top 15 tackle last year. In the last couple of years, he's dropped a little bit. I think he's still inside the top 30. Remember, every NFL team, there's 30 of them. They start 2 tackles. That's 60 starting tackles in the NFL. Havenstein's clearly in the top half of that. I think he's somewhere about 27, 28. So Havenstein is still delivering clicks. We like him. Ty Neske, a bit long in the tooth, but he's been giving the Rams some solid play, as has Ode Abuche, who got into the fight with Randy Gregory, and I hope he's appealing his suspension because I think the longer Abuche is out there, the more we get to see him, and maybe some depth for next year. Coleman Shelton is okay. You know, he's a good guy to have. Flexes to center, flexes to guard. Maybe is he a long-term starter? No, I think he's a flex guy. You know, we'll see with Logan Bruss coming back and some of these other guys coming back. Matt Skura's not coming back. Okay, say thank you to Matt Skura. He's not coming back at left guard, but coming back in 2023, Joseph Noteboom, David Edwards, Brian Allen, all slated as starters this year who've gone down. Alaric Jackson, who's performed like a solid starter, both at right guard and left tackle. I think we found something in Alaric Jackson. And I still believe in Tremaine Ingram. And we have yet to see about Logan Bruss. Oh, don't forget Chandler Brewer. Actually had some good moments. So the offensive line doesn't preclude me from drafting another offensive lineman. I believe in drafting offensive linemen in every draft. But there's some talent that if these guys can stay healthy, then the Rams are going to be okay going forward. You know, again, you don't keep a third quarterback that you have no intention of developing and playing, allows you to keep one of these offensive linemen around a little bit longer, and you don't have to pass them through the waiver wire to get them to the practice squad. Just saying, right? So Taylor Rapp has played better, right? Has not Taylor Rapp played a little bit better? But here's the thing. His tackling has gone down, right? He's actually playing with a little more awareness. He's got some picks. But he's not tackling. And if Taylor Rapp's not tackling, there's no point of having a Taylor Rapp. Nick Scott is tackling. There isn't a game that goes by where Nick Scott doesn't hammer somebody, but Nick Scott is struggling. Nick Scott is struggling in coverage. You know, the Rams used to have this guy that got playing time back in 2020. He was a low-round draft pick, Fuller. Remember Devin Fuller? Yeah, it'd be nice to kind of see where Fuller fits in all this. It would be nice to see, again, Russ Yeast next year, Quentin Lake. I don't see bringing back Taylor Rapp and Nick Scott. I just don't. I just don't. Everyone's all excited about Laurel Murchison, right? First, they see number 52, and it's like, well, that can't be Terrell Lewis because Terrell Lewis is getting to the quarterback. No, Terrell Lewis never gets near the quarterback. He was released. Laurel Murchison joined the team. Then he changed his number. I mean, literally game day, I think, to number 52. He picked up a couple of sacks, but again, remember who he was playing against, right? A team that rolled over and died. Michael Hoyt is getting a chance, and he's locking up the edge a little bit. And the reason that guys like Murchison and Hoyt are standing out is because Terrell Lewis and Justin Hollis were just so bad at getting to the quarterback. They weren't bad holding the edge, but they were just really bad at getting to the quarterback. And so Hoyt is standing out, and the Rams look like they're developing something there, which would be great to see. And Murchison, I don't really think much long term. He just had a good day against the Broncos, right? And regarding Terrell Lewis, last ad Terrell Lewis, he looked the part, right? But we said it back in August that Lewis just seemed to lack the eye of the tiger, right? When they interviewed him about being a healthy scratch at the Super Bowl, he didn't have any fire in his system that says, yeah, I was really ticked off about that. He wasn't going to play ahead of Von Miller anyway, but he just didn't have that fire in his belly. And I don't know if he's been picked up yet by anybody because other teams might be seeing that. He'll probably be on a roster going into the spring and into the summer and see if he can make another roster. But yeah, it was a bummer about Terrell Lewis, but it's true. There was just no fire there. Bobby Wagner, of course, has been amazing. Ernest Jones has been solid. But again, I go back to this. Wagner has tied his career high for sacks with 6. And I was, again, mocked over the summer when I suggested the Rams should take advantage of Bobby Wagner and his legs and have him come after the quarterback a little more than most teams would expect him to at this age, in this stage of his career, because he's never been a featured pass rusher. But with different formations, different sets, different blitz schemes, you could really utilize him. And he's got 6 sacks this year. Also, you saw earlier this year, he hopped over the line of scrimmage to block a kick. Bobby Wagner's been amazing. And it seems like if we get another year out of him, he's more than fulfilled that contract we gave him. So great deal for Bobby Wagner. Looking forward to seeing him back next year. And that's kind of where we are with the Rams. We'll start breaking down where they're drafting. They're 5-10 right now. It looks like I think they're going to be in the top 40 in the second round. That could be pretty interesting. Finally, I think Tony Romo said it on Sunday that the Rams aren't paying the bill. The bill's not come due. All that stupid stuff. Again, the low-hanging fruit of the sports media. Oh, it's time to pay the debt, pay the piper for everything the Rams have done. No, they're getting room in the salary cap. The salary cap's increasing. Some players are coming off of it. And you have some draft picks. They haven't mortgaged the future on anything. The Rams' future still looks pretty bright. It would look a lot brighter if Baker Mayfield came back as the number 2 to add some depth at the most critical of positions. All right, going around the NFL real quick here. Well, first off, I'm Joe Terosian. I'm a sports writer, and I've released my most recent book. It's a novel. I've written several books, 7 of them. 2 of them are high school football books, really good. Tangent Dreams and Temple City Company of the Age. All these books are available on Amazon. That's how I supplement my income. I'm a pastor of a small church in Burbank. Sometimes that bleeds through, and I hope it does, because I'm proud of that. And I'm also proud of getting to do this and writing books. And I served as a sports writer for over 20 years, was one of the founders at Mid-Valley Sports, which now covers the NFL. But Mid-Valley Sports actually started around my kitchen table. So if you want to check out some of my books, they are on Amazon.com. I'll hold some up in the days and weeks ahead. I am excited. My wife for Christmas got me this new cool GoPro package thing, and it's kind of cool because I'm working on a different set, planning on a different set for the start of the year with RamView, and a dedicated set strictly to RamView. And so I'm excited about that, excited about getting back into the rhythm of things. And again, just love talking football, talking NFL. So there you go. Got the commercial out of the way. Was that good enough? It was good enough. Okay. Can I just ask a quick question? Do you care about MVP races? I honestly, there's so much going on in the league right now and so much going on in sports. I'd honestly have more respect for a sportscaster if they talked about World Cup 2 weeks after it happens than hear them talking about MVP races. I don't care. I don't care about the MVP of the NFL. It's so boring. It's just, who cares about MVP races as if it really matters? Doesn't matter to me. Maybe it matters to the player. Of course it does. If Aaron Donald had never won a Defensive Player of the Year award, would I care? No, I wouldn't care. I don't care about the MVP races. I care about football. And I don't know. Sometimes you need to assess when sports announcers are talking. It's like, have you done any work today? Did you do any background check? Did you do any research on what you're going to talk about? Because again, MVP talk is low-hanging fruit, really low-hanging fruit. Okay. Hey, saw the Cowboys play on Saturday. Was really upset with the Eagles because every Christmas is a good Christmas when the Cowboys lose. And the Eagles had that game, and they needed a Gardner Minshew and a full team meltdown to secure that win. The Cowboys did against the Eagles. So I'm not real impressed by the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are vulnerable. And if they don't get a conversion on 3rd and 30 to stay in the game at home, they don't win that game. I think they can be beaten by anybody. And for Philly, I really don't care about it being a bad loss. I think it might be, and sometimes you learn a lot by losing. But here's the truth about life. People will say, you know, you don't learn anything in losing. You know, the real alpha male types. You don't lose anything. You don't gain anything by losing. But here's the deal. You might not want to lose, but in life, you're going to lose. It happens. You don't win all the time. Not even Tom Brady, right? You don't win all the time. Tom Brady has lost 3 Super Bowls, and he decided to play this year, and he lost his wife, okay? You don't always win, okay? You just don't. But when you lose at different times in life, you will find that you can learn something from it. And if you don't learn something from a loss, then you've lost twice. And while I think the Eagles didn't want to lose on Sunday, I think they learned that, no one's going to roll over for them. And everything they want is still there, even with their right tackle going down. Everything the Eagles want is still there. But it's good to know and be reminded that teams aren't going to roll over for you because this is your season. This is your magic time, right? And teams have a hard time learning that, even in a magical season, right? For the magic to continue, you still have to do some work, right? To keep the magic going. You have to, buy the rabbits, buy the top hat, get the magic wand, right? You have to work to make the magic happen, right? You have to develop the skills to make the magic happen. And I think the Eagles have done that. It's been an amazing year. But I think that loss in Dallas when they should have won is showing them that they have an opportunity, but they better tighten up if they're going to go further. I think Avonte Maddox going down does hurt them, though. It doesn't really make any difference with the Rams out of the picture. I'm probably going to root for the Giants in the NFC in the playoffs this year. This news came across just as I started the show was J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt for the Cardinals is retiring at the end of this year. I agree. J.J. Watt was a great player, right? J.J. Watt is a Hall of Famer. J.J. Watt is a solid citizen, great teammate, probably, and all that stuff, makes plays. But what I never liked about J.J. Watt was his signing with the Cardinals. I just never understood it. It's like I thought the guy wanted out of Dallas, or that Dallas, I was going to say the Dallas Texans. He wanted away from the Houston Texans so he could win, right? And then to win, he signs with the Cardinals? Well, he lives in Arizona. You can live in Arizona in the offseason, right? He should have gone someplace, taken less dough, and fought for a ring. And so that's one thing that I've always questioned about J.J. Watt. Great player, Hall of Famer, not taking anything away. But I always thought I never really liked this signing with the Cardinals because, come on, it's the Cardinals, right? You're never going anywhere. Looking at the playoff pictures, you got the Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, Ravens, and now the Chargers are all in. You got the Bills and Cincy next week, which is a big one. I'm rooting for the Bills. And then you have the Ravens and the Steelers. The Steelers still have a shot. And the Ravens don't know anything about Lamar Jackson. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Lamar Jackson going forward. Chargers are playing the Rams next week. The big one here is the one that is Dolphins and New England. And, of course, no one knows about Tua. How would I want this one to work out? Well, I want the Jaguars in the playoffs. So the Jaguars are playing Houston. They're going to go 8-8 heading into the final week of the season. And so I think I want the Patriots to beat the Dolphins because I want to find a way to get the Jets in the playoffs. I want to see the Jets in the playoffs. And they get the Seahawks this week. Mike White is back. It'll be interesting to see. Zach Wilson is probably going to be unemployed next year, hoping to latch on somewhere. So they're an interesting team with Mike White at quarterback. Titans are playing the Cowboys. I could care less. Titans are the most boring team in the NFL to me. I get so bored watching the Titans. You can only take so much for Ryan Tannehill. And now I know he's out, but even Malik Willis doesn't look like he's ready. Raiders and Frisco. Of course, I'm going to root for the Raiders. What are you going to do, right? It's like Sooner or later, someone's going to figure out Brock Purdy. And I think the 49ers could be a crash and burn in the playoffs. Eagles, Vikings, 49ers, Cowboys have all locked playoff spots. Eagles are vulnerable, the injuries a little bit, but I think in the end that Dallas loss will help them. Vikings are vulnerable. They got crushed at home by the Cowboys. Vikings, again, are so funny. Imagine the Vikings being 12-3 and then playing at the Met, the old Metropolitan Stadium. Think if they had a team that they built to play out in the weather that's happening in the Midwest and the North these days, that someone have to go to Bloomington and play the Vikings, right? What an advantage they would have to get to the Super Bowl. But instead, the Vikings, an indoor team, has to go play Green Bay, which is really hot right now. And I'm rooting for Green Bay. I'd like to see Green Bay in the playoffs. You got the Buccaneers and Panthers. Tom Brady looks really bad. And I think Tom Brady's a good example of you don't always win in life. And I think he's also a good example of this. If the outward story is true, when you think of Tom Brady, if the outward story is true, and that story is he decided to play another year of football, and his wife said, "That's it, I'm leaving you." He chose football over his wife. Then this is the kind of season he deserves. It's good messaging, right? It's you don't want to say it's God. Let's just call it sports karma. It's good messaging that even someone like Tom Brady can make really bad choices. From an outward observation, it wasn't on the inside, but from the outward observation, I'm looking at a supermodel who basically you could just tell put her career and everything on a back burner for her husband and her family. And now she just wants her husband to be home after he's won 7 Super Bowls, played in 10, had a 20+ year career. And he said, "No, I want to keep playing." Tom's got to get his priorities right, and he's paying for it this year. Can you imagine playing on that Buccaneer team and then knowing you lost your family? Sorry, now if the Buccaneers play the Cowboys, hey, go Bucks, right? Panthers, I'd love to see the Panthers get in just for Steve Wilkes, the head coach, and for Sam Darnold. A little justification for Sam Darnold. Like I said, I'm rooting for the Giants. Giants get the Colts this week, so they should be able to move to 9-6-1. I like Saquon Barkley, and in this weather that's out there these days, the way the weather is in the country, the Giants might be a tough out in some of these environs, and so it'll be fun to see. Regarding the Washington Texans, I could care less. They play the Browns. They can win. I'd like to see them lose. And some way, I'd like to see the Lions also sneak into the playoffs. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see, right? Panthers, Buccaneers, and Saints are all playing not for a wild card spot. They're playing for an NFC South title and such. And so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But all those teams, Eagles, Vikings, 49ers, Cowboys, I could see any one of them getting bounced early in the playoffs. Could see it happening. When you look at the AFC, as I get ready to wrap up here at the 28-minute mark, if you look at the AFC, the Chargers are a team that always disappoints you during the regular season. But one thing that kind of happens in the playoffs, I'm thinking about some runs they had with Phillip Rivers. They surprise you in the playoffs. They win a game they're not supposed to win. And if the Chargers are in the first round of the playoffs, they may very well win a game they're not supposed to win. And they are in the playoffs. And they could be a tough out for somebody if they're focused. And defense is playing better. Receivers are healthy. It could be interesting to see what the Chargers can do. They interest me. Dolphins, Patriots, even the Jets, they're all dead men walking. I think the Jaguars could surprise in the AFC. I think they could. I don't trust Baltimore. Even if Lamar Jackson was back healthy, Lamar Jackson, his passing has limitations. Great player, but he has limitations, right? So Bills, Chiefs, Bengals. And I don't know if anyone's going to get by those guys, be one of those three, but we'll talk more. All right. Hey, it's 29:15 into the show. I'm Joe Terosian, and this has been RamView. Thank you so much. If you can leave a comment, leave a like, hit a share, drop a link, do all that stuff. I love talking football, and we'll be back talking Ram football in a few days. God bless. Take care. We will talk to you soon.